Happy birthday to my only parent. I stared at my sister's Facebook post until the words blurred together, my coffee growing cold in my shaking hands. My name is Vivian Chen, 36, pediatric nurse, and apparently invisible daughter. The photo showed Rachel beaming next to Mom's hospital bed, both of them smiling like I'd never existed. The last 15 years of my life caring for our mother had been some elaborate hallucination. Only parent. I screenshot the post before my hands could stop trembling. Mom's birthday. The woman who raised 2 daughters, not one. The woman who'd spent the last 3 years asking for me every morning when the dementia fog lifted, calling Rachel's name only when she forgot mine completely. My phone buzzed with notifications. Heart emojis from distant relatives. So sweet, from Rachel's college friends. Comments piling up under that lie, each one driving the knife deeper. 37 people had liked it already. 37 people who now believed I was nothing. I scrolled through Rachel's feed, looking for any trace of me in our family history. Her wedding photos, I'd been cropped out of the family shots. Mom's last Christmas, I was behind the camera, never in frame. Her graduation announcement, thanks to my mom for everything. The pattern stretched back years. I'd been systematically erased, post by post, like some kind of digital death by 1,000 cuts. The worst part? I'd helped plan this birthday visit. I'd been the one calling the facility, coordinating with the nurses, making sure Mom had her favorite flowers. I'd driven 4 hours from Seattle, taken vacation days, spent 3 nights sleeping on the uncomfortable chair beside her bed while Rachel flew in this morning for a 2-hour photo opportunity. But social media told a different story. In Rachel's version, she was the devoted daughter. I was the sister who'd abandoned the family for her career, moved across the state, left poor Rachel to handle everything alone. Never mind that I sent money every month. Never mind that I called Mom every single day. Never mind that I'd been the one researching memory care facilities when Rachel was too busy with her real estate business to return phone calls. I set down my coffee and opened my phone's voice memo app. My finger hovered over a recording I'd made 6 months ago, before Mom's words became scattered fragments, before she started forgetting how to use a fork. Before the disease stole her voice but left her love intact. Vivian's been my rock through all of this. I don't know what I would have done without her. Rachel tries, but Vivian sees me. She knows what I need before I even ask. Both my girls love me, but Vivian shows up. Every single day, she shows up. Mom's voice, clear and strong and completely aware. Talking to her social worker about her care preferences, not knowing I was recording our session for her medical files. Not knowing that 6 months later, her words would become evidence in a war I never wanted to fight. The notification sound made me jump. Rachel had tagged me in the post. Vivian couldn't make it this time, but she sends her love. I laughed out loud in my empty apartment, the sound sharp and bitter. Couldn't make it. I was literally in the room when she took that photo. I'd stepped out to get Mom's medications adjusted with the nursing staff, and in those 10 minutes, Rachel had created an alternate reality where I didn't exist. My fingers moved without permission, typing a response. I was there, Rachel. I've been there every weekend for 3 years. Delete. Mom has 2 daughters, not one. Delete. Why are you lying? Delete. Instead, I opened my Photos app. There I was yesterday, reading Mom her favorite book. There I was this morning, helping her with breakfast while Rachel slept in at her hotel. There I was an hour ago, holding Mom's hand during her afternoon confusion, singing the lullaby that still calmed her when nothing else would. But proof wasn't the same as justice. I could flood Rachel's comment section with evidence and come off as the desperate sister seeking attention. The one who couldn't let Rachel have her moment. The one who always had to make everything about herself. I'd learned that lesson at Rachel's wedding. When she'd given her speech about Mom being her best friend and only role model, I'd tried to correct the narrative. Mentioned the times I'd driven Mom to chemotherapy during Rachel's European honeymoon. Brought up the nights I'd slept at the hospital while Rachel built her career. The family had looked at me like I was petty, small, jealous of my sister's happiness. Now I understood Rachel's strategy better. She didn't need to attack me directly. She just needed to pretend I didn't exist until everyone forgot I ever had. Gaslighting by omission. Rewriting history one post at a time. My laptop sat open on the kitchen table, Facebook still logged in. The cursor blinked in the comment box like a heartbeat. I could upload the voice memo right now. Let Mom's own words speak for themselves. Let 37 strangers hear who really showed up when it mattered. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the memory of Mom's face last week when she'd asked why her daughters never visited together anymore. Maybe it was the exhaustion of 15 years spent trying to prove my worth to a family that had already decided I didn't matter. Maybe it was the nurse in me, trained to assess situations completely before acting. I closed the laptop and walked to my kitchen window. Outside, Seattle hummed with its usual energy. People going about their lives, unaware of the small war being waged in apartments and hospital rooms across the country. Adult children fighting over the scraps of dying parents' attention, competing for the title of good daughter. It was some kind of inheritance. Rachel's phone number sat in my contacts. I could call her right now, ask her to take down the post or at least acknowledge my existence in it. But we both knew how that conversation would go. She'd act confused, hurt that I was making such a big deal out of nothing. She'd twist my words until I was the unreasonable one, the sister who couldn't stand sharing the spotlight. The voice recording played in my mind on repeat. Mom's words, clear as day, Vivian shows up. Every single day, she shows up. And I had. For 15 years, I'd shown up. Through Mom's divorce, her cancer scare, Dad's death, Rachel's wedding drama, the slow decline of dementia. I'd rearranged my life, my career, my relationships around the simple act of being present for the people I loved. But presence didn't photograph well. Consistency didn't trend on social media. The daily, quiet acts of love couldn't compete with the grand gestures and perfect moments Rachel curated for her audience. I picked up my phone again and opened my notes app. Started typing a list of dates, times, photo timestamps. Evidence. Mom had taught me to keep good records in nursing school, said it would save my life someday. She'd meant medical records, but the principle was the same. Document everything. Let the facts speak for themselves. Wait for the right moment to present the truth. I never thought it would save hers. The voice memo sat in my files like a loaded weapon. Mom's truth, preserved in digital amber. Rachel could rewrite history all she wanted, but she couldn't erase a mother's love spoken in her own voice. She couldn't delete the words that mattered most. Vivian shows up. Tomorrow, I'd drive back to the facility. I'd sit beside Mom's bed, hold her hand, and listen to her rambling stories about people who'd been dead for decades. I'd help her eat lunch, brush her hair, sing the songs that still reached whatever part of her remained untouched by the disease. And when the time was right, when Rachel pushed too far or told one lie too many, I'd let Mom's voice remind the world which daughter had never stopped showing up. The truth always surfaces eventually. Like oil on water. You just have to be patient enough to watch it rise. The pattern started the day Dad collapsed in our kitchen, 15 years ago. I was 21, home from nursing school for spring break, making scrambled eggs while Dad read his morning paper. Rachel was 24, 3 hours away in Portland, building her real estate empire and dating the man who'd become her husband. Mom was upstairs getting ready for her shift at the library. One moment Dad was complaining about the Mariners' terrible pitching. The next, he was on the floor, his coffee mug in pieces around him, making sounds I'd never heard a human make. I dropped to my knees and checked his pulse while dialing 911. Training kicked in. Clear the airway. Check for responsiveness. Start chest compressions. The operator's voice guided me through each step, but my hands already knew what to do. CPR certification wasn't theoretical anymore. It was my father's life under my palms. Is anyone else there who can help? The operator asked. My mom, I managed between compressions. Call Mom. But when the paramedics arrived 6 minutes later, Mom was still upstairs, frozen in our bedroom doorway. She'd heard the commotion but couldn't move, couldn't process what was happening. Shock, they called it later. A normal response to trauma. I rode in the ambulance, holding Dad's hand while machines beeped around us. Mom followed in her car, white-knuckled and shaking. Rachel got the call at her office and immediately booked the next flight home. Dad survived the heart attack but spent 2 weeks in intensive care. I took a leave of absence from school, sleeping in the hospital chair, learning the rhythms of his machines. Mom tried to help but couldn't handle seeing him with tubes down his throat. She'd visit for an hour, then retreat to the cafeteria, overwhelmed and guilty. Rachel arrived on day 3 with flowers and a laptop. She'd already researched cardiac rehabilitation programs, found the best specialists, created spreadsheets of recovery timelines. She took charge of conversations with doctors, asked all the right questions, made lists of everything that needed to happen. Thank God you're here, Mom whispered to her that first night. I don't know what we would have done. I looked up from Dad's bedside, where I'd been monitoring his vitals, adjusting his pillows, helping him sip ice chips. Where I'd been for 72 hours straight. Vivian's been amazing, Rachel said, glancing at me. But this is so much for her to handle alone. Alone. As if Mom hadn't been there. As if Rachel's 3 days of research outweighed my 3 days of presence. As if competence was more valuable than constancy. The nurses loved Rachel. She spoke their language, understood medical terminology, asked about discharge planning and insurance coverage. She was professional, organized, efficient. Everything a good daughter should be in a crisis. I was just the one who noticed when Dad's breathing changed at 2 in the morning. Who held his hand during nightmares. Who learned which ice chips he preferred and how he liked his pillows arranged. Who sat through the scary moments when machines alarmed and nurses rushed in, because someone needed to be there. Rachel stayed for a week, then flew back to close a major deal. "I'll be back next weekend," she promised. "Vivian can handle things until then." Of course I could. I'd already proven that. So I handled them. I moved back home, finished my degree through online classes, and became Dad's primary caregiver during his recovery. I learned to cook heart-healthy meals, drove him to rehabilitation appointments, monitored his medications. Mom went back to work, grateful to have something normal to focus on. Rachel visited monthly, each trip documented extensively on her new Facebook account. Photos of her cooking Dad's favorite meal. Videos of them watching baseball together. Status updates about his progress, written like she'd been there for every milestone. "My dad is getting stronger every day," she'd post, with pictures of them walking around the block together during her weekend visits. Never mind that I walked with him every morning and evening. Never mind that his real progress happened in the undocumented moments between her trips. But Rachel's posts told the story everyone wanted to hear. The successful daughter who'd stepped up during a family crisis. The devoted child who'd put her career on hold to care for her father. The one who made recovery look beautiful, manageable, even inspiring. My reality was less photogenic. Dad crying in frustration when he couldn't remember words. Mom's anxiety attacks when she thought about losing him. The long nights when I questioned every decision, wondering if I was doing enough, being enough, saving enough. Rachel's version got likes and comments. Mine got lived. The worst part was watching Dad's face light up every time Rachel walked through the door. Not because he loved her more, but because her visits meant something special was happening. Someone was taking photos. Someone was planning activities. Someone was treating his recovery like a celebration instead of work. I became the baseline. The constant that didn't need to be acknowledged or appreciated because it was always there. Rachel became the highlight. The special event that transformed ordinary days into memorable moments. When Dad had his second heart attack 3 years later, the pattern repeated itself. I was there for the emergency, the hospital stay, the difficult conversations about long-term care. Rachel flew in for the funeral planning, the memorial service, the beautiful eulogy about being Daddy's little girl. Vivian kept him comfortable in his final weeks, she told the assembled mourners. But Dad always said I was his sunshine. She wasn't wrong. She had been his sunshine. Bright, warming, occasional. I'd been his steady ground. Present, reliable, invisible. After the funeral, relatives thanked Rachel for her beautiful speech, her thoughtful arrangements, her obvious devotion. They hugged me and said, "You did so much," but their eyes were already moving past me to the daughter who'd made grief look graceful. That's when I understood the rules of family mythology. Love wasn't measured by consistency but by intensity. Presence wasn't valued unless it was performed. The daughter who showed up every day became part of the furniture. The one who flew in for crises became the hero. Mom's dementia diagnosis 3 years ago should have changed everything. This time, I told myself, we'd share the responsibility. Rachel had more money now, more flexibility in her schedule. Surely she'd step up. Instead, she stepped back. Dementia wasn't beautiful like cardiac recovery. There were no inspiring milestones, no heartwarming progress photos. Just a slow fade that resisted documentation, refused to trend. "I don't know how you do it," Rachel would say during her monthly visits, watching me redirect Mom's confusion for the 100th time that day. "I could never be as patient as you are." She said it like patience was a talent I'd been born with instead of a skill I'd developed through necessity. Like my ability to handle Mom's difficult moments was some kind of genetic gift rather than the result of being the only one willing to practice it daily. So I practiced. I learned Mom's triggers, her comfort objects, her remaining pathways to peace. I documented her good days and bad days, tracked her medications, researched memory care facilities. I became fluent in the language of dementia, the grammar of loss. Rachel remained conversational. She could charm Mom during visits, bring flowers and cheerful energy, create moments of connection that looked beautiful in photos. But when Mom woke up confused at 3 in the morning, she called my name. When Mom forgot how to work the television remote, I sat with her through reruns of shows she didn't remember loving. When she couldn't find words for what she needed, I learned to translate her gestures, her expressions, the subtle changes in her breathing. When Rachel posted photos of their lunch dates, I was happy Mom was having good moments. But I also knew what happened after the photos stopped. The confusion that followed overstimulation. The agitation that came with disrupted routines. The careful work of rebuilding Mom's sense of safety one familiar moment at a time. Yesterday's Facebook post wasn't about Mom's birthday. It was about Rachel's identity. The successful daughter who'd overcome her busy schedule to be there for her only parent. The one whose love was so obvious it didn't need documentation beyond that single, perfect moment. But I had documentation too. Not just photos and posts, but voice recordings. Mom's own words about who showed up and who performed. Evidence that love wasn't always loud, attention wasn't always public, and truth didn't always trend. Rachel had taught me something valuable over the years. She'd shown me the power of narrative, the importance of controlling your story. The difference between being seen and being known. Tomorrow, I'd start writing a different story. One where presence mattered more than performance. Where the quiet daughter finally found her voice. I called Rachel the next morning while my coffee was still hot, before I could lose my nerve. "Vivian, I was just thinking about you." Her voice carried that bright, artificial warmth she used with difficult clients. "How are you holding up? I know yesterday was emotional for all of us. That's actually why I'm calling." I kept my tone level, professional. "About your Facebook post." A pause. I could hear her keyboard clicking in the background, probably responding to emails while we talked. "What about it?" "The part where you said, only parent. I was wondering if you could clarify what you meant." "Oh, honey." The keyboard stopped. "You know I didn't mean anything by that. It's just a figure of speech. Mom's the only parent we have left." My grip tightened on the phone. "But that's not what you wrote. You said, 'Happy birthday to my only parent.' Not, 'our only parent.' Mine. You're reading too much into it, Vivian. It was just a quick post from the hospital. I wasn't editing for grammar." I pulled up the post on my laptop. "You also tagged me and said I couldn't make it this time. But I was there. I've been there every weekend for 3 years." Another pause. "Longer this time. Look, I know you visit Mom a lot. Everyone knows that. But this was her birthday. A special occasion. I thought it would be nice to give her some focused attention without turning it into a family reunion." Family reunion. As if my presence would have been some kind of inconvenience instead of the continuation of care I'd been providing all along. "Rachel, I drove 4 hours to be there for her birthday. I slept in that chair for 3 nights. I coordinated with the nursing staff, brought her favorite flowers, made sure she had everything she needed. Then you arrived this morning and posted like I don't exist." "That's not true." Her voice shifted into the patient tone she used with unreasonable people. "I acknowledged you in the comments. I said you sent your love. You said I couldn't make it. Which is a lie. Vivian, you're being really sensitive about this. Maybe you need to take a step back and think about why this is affecting you so much. Are you feeling guilty about something?" The question hit like a slap. Classic Rachel. Turn the conversation around, make me question my own reality, suggest that my reaction was the real problem. I'd watched her do this to Mom during Dad's illness, to family members who questioned her decisions, to anyone who challenged her version of events. "I'm not feeling guilty," I said carefully. "I'm feeling erased." Erased? That's a little dramatic, don't you think? "Look, I'm sorry if my post upset you. That wasn't my intention. But I can't control how you interpret every word I write on social media." I took a deep breath. Tried a different approach. What if we made an agreement? Going forward, when one of us posts about Mom, we include both of us. Acknowledge that she has 2 daughters who love her. Of course she has 2 daughters. Nobody's disputing that. Your posts dispute it. Your wedding photos dispute it. The way you talk about our family disputes it. Vivian, I think you might be projecting here. Just because I don't document every single interaction doesn't mean I'm trying to erase you. Some of us don't live our lives on social media." The irony was breathtaking. Rachel, who posted daily updates about her business success, her perfect marriage, her charitable work, accusing me of living on social media. Rachel, who turned every family milestone into a photo opportunity, suggesting I was the one seeking attention. "This isn't about social media," I said. "It's about honesty. It's about Mom knowing that both her daughters care about her. Mom knows we both care about her. She doesn't need Facebook posts to prove that." "Then why do you post them?" Another pause. I could hear her shifting in her chair, probably checking her phone for more important messages. "Look, Vivian, I don't have time for this level of analysis about every word I write online. I posted a nice tribute to Mom on her birthday. If you want to make that about yourself somehow, that's your choice. But I'm not going to apologize for celebrating our mother." Our mother. Now she remembered the plural. "I'm not asking you to apologize for celebrating her. I'm asking you to acknowledge that I exist. That I've been taking care of her. That I matter in this family." "You do matter. Of course you matter. But Vivian, honey, you can't expect everyone else to constantly validate your contributions. That's not how the world works." I stared at my reflection in the black computer screen. There I was, 36 years old, begging my sister to admit I existed. Pleading for basic recognition of 15 years of care. Reduced to asking for crumbs of acknowledgement like some kind of charity case. "What if I post my own birthday message for Mom?" I asked. With photos of us together? Of course. You should absolutely do that. Nobody's stopping you from posting whatever you want. But we both knew that wasn't true. Rachel had staked her claim to the narrative. She'd established herself as the devoted daughter, the one whose love mattered most. My post would look defensive, reactive, desperate. The sister who couldn't let anyone else have a moment. Rachel, I have a recording of Mom talking about our family dynamic. From 6 months ago, when she was still lucid. Do you want to know what she said? The keyboard clicking stopped entirely. What kind of recording? A conversation with her social worker about her care preferences. Mom talks about both of us. About who shows up and who visits. About what she needs from her daughters. Vivian, that sounds like a private medical conversation. Are you saying you recorded Mom without her permission? I recorded it for her medical files. With her knowledge. It's part of her care documentation. And now you're threatening to use it against me somehow? That's really concerning, Vivian. That sounds like a violation of Mom's privacy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Rachel was accusing me of violating Mom's privacy while simultaneously erasing her from family history. Suggesting that Mom's own words about her daughters were somehow inappropriate to share. It's not against you, I said. It's Mom's truth. Her perspective on how we've handled her care. Mom has dementia, Vivian. Her perspective isn't reliable anymore. You know that. This was before the dementia got worse. When she was still making her own decisions. Look, I don't know what you think this recording proves, but using a sick woman's words to win some kind of argument is really inappropriate. I'm disappointed in you. She was disappointed in me. The sister who'd spent 3 years managing Mom's care was disappointing the one who flew in for photo opportunities. What would it take for you to acknowledge my role in Mom's care? I asked directly. I do acknowledge it. All the time. I tell people how much you help. Not in public. Not where it matters. Not in ways that create a record. Vivian, this conversation is starting to sound really unhealthy. Maybe you should talk to someone about these feelings of being underappreciated. I mean that with love. There it was. The final deflection. Suggest that my reaction was a mental health issue instead of a reasonable response to being systematically erased. Turn my legitimate concerns into symptoms of instability. I'm going to hang up now, I said. I hope you get the help you need, Rachel replied. And Vivian? I really think you should be careful about using Mom's medical recordings for personal reasons. That could get you in trouble professionally. The line went dead. I sat in my kitchen, phone still pressed to my ear, processing what had just happened. I'd tried diplomacy. I'd asked for fairness. I'd offered compromise. In return, I'd been gaslit, dismissed, and threatened. Rachel had shown me exactly who she was. Someone who would weaponize my profession against me. Someone who would turn Mom's dementia into a shield for her own behavior. Someone who would suggest I needed mental health treatment for asking to be acknowledged. But she'd also shown me something else. She was scared of that recording. Scared of Mom's voice speaking the truth. Scared enough to threaten my nursing license over it. Which meant it had more power than I'd realized. I opened my laptop and downloaded the voice memo to my hard drive. Backed it up to cloud storage. Copied it to a flash drive. If Rachel wanted to play hardball, she'd just taught me the rules of the game. Some daughters were born to be heroes. Others were born to be historians. Mom's voice would tell the real story. And this time, I wouldn't be asking for permission to let the truth speak. The call came from Bridget, Mom's favorite nurse, 3 days after my conversation with Rachel. Vivian? I'm sorry to bother you, but I wanted to check something. Your sister called about transferring your mom to Willowbrook Manor in Portland. She said you were both in agreement, but the paperwork only has her signature. I was in the middle of restocking 4 supplies at the hospital, my hands full of saline bags. Everything went still. What transfer? The intake coordinator from Willowbrook called this morning. They're expecting your mom next week. Your sister said it would be better for the family to have her closer to Portland, and that the memory care program there is more advanced. I set down the saline bags carefully, my nurse training keeping my voice steady while my heart hammered. Bridget, I haven't agreed to any transfer. This is the first I'm hearing about it. A pause. Oh no. I was afraid of this. Your sister seemed very confident that everything was arranged. She already paid the transfer fee and gave our business office notice. How much notice? 7 days. Your mom is scheduled to move Friday. Today was Tuesday. Rachel had given them notice on Monday, the day after our phone conversation. While I'd been trying to process her threats about my nursing license, she'd been making calls to dismantle 3 years of carefully built care relationships. Bridget, can you hold off on the transfer? There's obviously been some miscommunication. I wish I could, honey, but once the business side is set in motion. Your sister was very persuasive. She talked to our administrator about how the family needed mom closer to home, how the current arrangement was causing stress for everyone involved. Everyone involved. Translation: Rachel had painted me as the problem daughter, the one creating family drama over mom's care. She'd probably positioned herself as the reasonable sister trying to solve a conflict I'd created. What exactly did she tell them? Another pause. Longer this time. Vivian, this is awkward, but she mentioned that you've been under a lot of stress lately. That you've been struggling with the distance and the emotional burden. She said moving your mom closer to Portland would take some pressure off you while giving your mom access to better resources. The manipulation was breathtaking. Rachel had turned my dedication into instability, my consistency into stress, my geographical sacrifice into a problem that needed solving. She'd made herself the hero rescuing both mom and me from a situation I couldn't handle. Did she mention that I drive 4 hours every weekend to be here? That I've rearranged my entire life around mom's care? She did say you've been making a tremendous effort, but that it wasn't sustainable long term. She showed them photos of you sleeping in the chair, said she was worried about your health. Those photos. The evidence of my devotion, twisted into proof of my deterioration. Rachel had taken pictures of me caring for mom and used them to justify taking mom away. Bridget, Willowbrook is 3 hours from Seattle. If mom moves there, I'll barely be able to visit. I know, honey. I wondered about that. Your mom always asks for you first thing in the morning. That detail hit me like a physical blow. Every day for 3 years, mom's first word had been my name. Even as the disease stole her memories, some deep part of her brain still reached for me at dawn, still expected to find me in the chair beside her bed. What would it take to stop the transfer? You'd need to be mom's legal healthcare proxy. Or you'd need your sister to withdraw the request. I wasn't mom's healthcare proxy. Rachel was. We'd set it up that way 5 years ago because Rachel had the legal background to navigate medical decisions and I'd be the one providing daily care. It had seemed logical then, a division of responsibilities based on our different strengths. Now I understood it for what it really was, a trap. Can I talk to the administrator? You can try, but Vivian? Your sister was very thorough. She brought documentation showing your mom's decline, research about Willowbrook's superior program, even a letter from a neurologist recommending the transfer. What neurologist? Dr. Patterson in Portland. He specializes in dementia care. I didn't recognize the name, which meant Rachel had taken mom to a new doctor without telling me. Had probably set up the consultation during one of her recent visits, presented herself as the primary caregiver seeking better care options for their mother. When did mom see Dr. Patterson? According to the paperwork, last month. The consultation report recommends a more structured environment with advanced behavioral management programs. Last month. When I thought Rachel was just visiting for mom's routine checkup. She'd been building a case for transfer, collecting professional opinions that would support her narrative of upgraded care. I hung up and immediately called Willowbrook Manor. I'm Vivian Chen, I told their intake coordinator. I understand my mother is scheduled to transfer to your facility. Yes. We're so excited to welcome Mrs. Chen to our family. Your sister spoke very highly of our program. She mentioned you're a nurse, so you'll appreciate our evidence-based approach to memory care. Can you tell me about the consultation with Dr. Patterson? Certainly. Dr. Patterson was impressed with your mother's overall health but recommended our structured environment for her advancing symptoms. He noted some agitation and confusion that our behavioral specialists are well equipped to manage. Agitation and confusion. Mom's worst symptoms happened during transitions, when strangers tried to rush her through routines she didn't understand. She was calm with familiar faces, peaceful in familiar spaces. Dr. Patterson had probably seen her on one of her difficult days, maybe even triggered the symptoms by disrupting her routine for the consultation. Did Dr. Patterson meet with both daughters? I believe he met with your sister. She's been coordinating your mother's care, correct? Coordinating. That was one word for it. Can I schedule a visit to tour your facility? Of course. Though I should mention, we do have a waiting list for our memory care unit. Your sister was fortunate that we had a spot available. These openings don't come along often. The subtext was clear: don't rock the boat. Don't ask too many questions. Be grateful for the opportunity Rachel had secured. But I had questions anyway. About mom's current care plan, about the transition timeline, about visiting schedules for family members who lived far away. With each answer, the picture became clearer. Willowbrook was an expensive facility with a prestigious reputation. The kind of place that looked impressive in brochures and made families feel good about their choices. It was also highly structured, with limited visiting hours and strict protocols that prioritized efficiency over individual relationships. Mom would get excellent medical care. She'd also lose the daily familiarity that kept her grounded, the nursing staff who knew her preferences, the routines that gave her comfort. She'd become a well-managed patient instead of a known person. And I'd become a weekend visitor instead of a daily presence. The drive to Portland was manageable for overnight trips, impossible for the consistent care I'd been providing. Rachel had found the perfect solution. She'd upgraded Mom's care in a way that sounded responsible and loving, while ensuring that I'd be too far away to maintain my role as primary advocate. She'd get credit for securing superior treatment while I'd be forced to step back due to logistics. The administrator at Bridgeview confirmed what I already knew: without being healthcare proxy, I had no legal standing to stop the transfer. Rachel had every right to move Mom to a different facility. The fact that she'd done it without consulting me was unfortunate, but not grounds for intervention. "I understand this is difficult," he said. "Family disagreements about care are more common than you'd think. But from our perspective, Miss Chen has been very involved in her mother's care decisions. She's demonstrated clear commitment to finding the best possible placement." Ms. Chen. Rachel. The daughter whose involvement looked official, documented, legally binding. While I'd been showing up every day, she'd been building a paper trail that established her as the decision-maker. I sat in my car outside the hospital, watching nurses change shifts through the lobby windows. People going about their routines, trusting that their expertise and dedication would be recognized and valued. I'd spent 15 years believing the same thing about family. But families weren't hospitals. Love wasn't medicine. And sometimes the person with the most power wasn't the one with the most knowledge. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Hope you got the message about Mom's transfer. Excited to give her this opportunity for better care." The heart emoji. As if this was a celebration instead of an ambush. I started typing responses and deleting them. "You didn't tell me." Delete. "This is kidnapping." Delete. "How could you do this without talking to me?" Delete. Instead, I called Mom's number at Bridgeview. The staff usually put the phone up to her ear so we could talk, even when she couldn't respond clearly. Mom. It's Vivian." "Vivian." Her voice was small, confused. "Where are you? I've been looking for you." "I'm coming to see you soon, Mom. I love you." "I love you too. Will you stay?" The question broke something in my chest. In 5 days, I wouldn't be able to answer yes anymore. In 5 days, staying would mean a 6-hour round trip instead of sleeping in the chair beside her bed. "I'll stay as long as I can," I promised. After I hung up, I opened the voice memo app and played Mom's recording one more time. Her clear, strong voice from 6 months ago. "Vivian shows up. Every single day, she shows up." Rachel was betting that I'd accept this latest manipulation. I'd accepted all the others. That I'd step aside gracefully, maybe even thank her for taking charge of such a difficult situation. She was betting that I'd choose dignity over truth, peace over justice. She'd made a bad bet. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with 3 phones, a laptop, and a legal pad covered in notes. I'd called in sick to work, the first time in 4 years, because some battles require your full attention. The voice recording sat in the center of it all like evidence at a crime scene. Mom's words, clear and uncompromising: "Vivian shows up. Every single day, she shows up." Followed by the longer statement about my care, my consistency, my understanding of her needs. But evidence meant nothing without strategy. I'd spent 15 years reacting to Rachel's moves, defending myself against accusations I never saw coming, trying to prove my worth to people who'd already decided it didn't matter. Tonight, I was done being defensive. Tonight, I was going on offense. First, I made a list of everything Rachel had against me: the distance between Seattle and Mom's facility, my single status with no obvious family support system, my emotional investment that could be painted as instability. She'd weaponized my dedication, turned my sacrifice into evidence of poor judgment. Then I made a list of what I had against her: 3 years of documented visits, hundreds of photos showing hands-on care, medical knowledge that revealed the flaws in her transfer plan, and most importantly, Mom's own voice contradicting the narrative Rachel was building. The difference was that Rachel had been playing offense all along. She'd been building her case systematically: the neurologist consultation, the facility research, the legal documentation. She presented herself as the responsible daughter making difficult but necessary decisions. I'd been playing defense, trying to prove I belonged in a family that kept questioning my membership. But I was done asking for permission to love my mother. I opened my laptop and started researching Willowbrook Manor more thoroughly. Their website was polished, professional, designed to impress family members who wanted the best for their loved ones. But behind the marketing copy were details that told a different story. High staff turnover rates. Complaints about limited visiting hours. Reviews from family members who felt disconnected from their relatives' daily care. Photos of pristine common areas but no glimpse of actual resident rooms. Corporate ownership by a company that managed 12 facilities across 3 states. Everything about Willowbrook screamed efficient warehousing, disguised as premium care. Mom would get excellent medical management and lose every personal connection that still anchored her to herself. I called 3 memory care facilities in Seattle and requested information packets. If Rachel wanted to play the better care game, I could play it too. Seattle had options she hadn't considered, places that offered both medical excellence and the geographical proximity that would allow me to maintain my role in Mom's life. Then I did something I'd never done before. I scheduled a consultation with an elder law attorney. I need to understand my rights regarding my mother's care, I told the receptionist. My sister is her healthcare proxy, but she's making decisions without consulting me. The appointment was set for Thursday morning, 2 days before Rachel's planned transfer. Next, I called Dr. Rodriguez, Mom's longtime neurologist at Bridgeview, the one who'd been managing her care for 2 years, who knew her history and her baseline functioning. Dr. Rodriguez, this is Vivian Chen. I'm calling about my mother's transfer to Willowbrook. Vivian, I was surprised to hear about that. Your mother has been stable here, and you've been such an integral part of her care team. Did my sister consult you before arranging the transfer? A pause. She asked for copies of your mother's medical records and mentioned exploring other options. I assumed she was doing research, not making concrete plans. What's your professional opinion about moving Mom to a different facility at this stage? Another pause, longer this time. Honestly? Transitions are difficult for dementia patients. Your mother has established routines here, familiar faces, predictable environments. Starting over somewhere new typically causes regression, at least temporarily. Even if the new facility has more advanced programs? Vivian, the most advanced program for dementia patients is consistency. Familiar caregivers who understand their needs, established routines, environments where they feel safe. Your daily presence has been tremendously stabilizing for your mother. I asked him to document that opinion. He agreed. By midnight, I had a battle plan. Thursday morning with the attorney, I'd learn exactly what rights I had as Mom's daughter versus Rachel's rights as healthcare proxy. I'd find out whether systematic exclusion from care decisions constituted grounds for challenging her authority. Thursday afternoon, I'd drive to Bridgeview and document everything: Mom's current functioning level, her responses to familiar staff, her comfort in her established environment. Video evidence of her stability. Thursday evening, I'd record another conversation with Mom about her preferences, her understanding of her situation, her feelings about potential changes. As long as she had moments of lucidity, her voice still mattered legally. Friday morning, if the legal consultation gave me grounds, I'd file for emergency intervention to halt the transfer. If not, I'd execute Plan B. Plan B was simpler but riskier. I'd go public. Not with emotional appeals or family drama, but with facts. Mom's voice recording paired with documentation of her current care success. Dr. Rodriguez's professional opinion about the risks of transition. Photos showing her comfort level with current staff versus her agitation during Rachel's disruptive visits. I'd create a narrative that focused on what was best for Mom rather than what looked good for family members. I'd let her own voice contradict Rachel's claims about improved care. The beauty of Plan B was that Rachel couldn't fight it without looking worse. She couldn't argue that Mom's own words were irrelevant without admitting she was ignoring her mother's expressed preferences. She couldn't dismiss medical advice without revealing that she'd bypassed Mom's established care team. But Plan B would also burn every bridge with my sister. Once I went public with evidence of her manipulation, there would be no family dinners, no shared holidays, no pretense of sisterly cooperation. Rachel would become an enemy instead of a rival. I was surprised to discover how little that prospect bothered me. For 15 years, I'd protected Rachel's feelings while she systematically undermined my role. I'd stayed quiet about her absences to preserve her image as a good daughter. I'd accepted her revisions of family history to avoid conflict. I'd let her take credit for my work to maintain family peace. In return, she'd tried to erase me entirely. Some relationships aren't worth preserving. Some peace comes at too high a price. I spent the rest of the night organizing my evidence files. Medical records, visit logs, photos with timestamps, text messages about care coordination. 3 years of documentation that proved who'd been showing up, who'd been making decisions, who'd been present for the difficult moments that never made it onto social media. Rachel had taught me something valuable about narrative control. She'd shown me how the right story, told persuasively enough, could override inconvenient facts. How perception could become reality if you were confident enough in your version of events. But she'd made 2 crucial mistakes. First, she'd underestimated the power of Mom's own voice. In her rush to paint me as unstable and herself as responsible, she'd forgotten that Mom still had moments of clarity. That dementia patient's preferences still carried legal weight when documented properly. Second, she'd forgotten that I was a medical professional. I understood patient advocacy, healthcare ethics, the legal frameworks that protected vulnerable adults. I knew how to document concerns, how to present medical evidence, how to speak the language that healthcare systems respected. Rachel had spent years establishing herself as the family spokesperson. But I'd spent the same years becoming Mom's advocate. Tomorrow, she'd learn the difference. I closed my laptop and walked to the kitchen window. Seattle glowed in the distance, a city full of people fighting their own quiet battles for recognition, respect, truth. Most of those battles never made the news, never trended on social media, never got resolved in satisfying ways. But some did. Some quiet voices grew loud enough to be heard. Some patient advocates found the courage to stand up to charming manipulators. Some invisible daughters finally stepped into the light. I thought about Mom sleeping in her familiar room at Bridgeview, surrounded by nurses who knew her name, comfortable in routines that honored her remaining dignity. In 3 days, Rachel wanted to strip all of that away for the sake of appearances, for the story it would tell about her own devotion. But Mom deserved better than being a prop in her daughter's performance. She deserved the kind of love that showed up without cameras, that stayed when staying was hard, that fought for her welfare even when fighting was ugly. Rachel had her voice recording of Mom praising her devotion. The kind of conversation that happened when children visited, when cameras were rolling, when everyone was performing their best selves. I had the other kind. The conversation that happened in quiet moments, when Mom thought no one was documenting her words, when she spoke truth instead of diplomacy. Vivian shows up. Every single day, she shows up. Tomorrow, I'd show up differently. Not as the grateful sister accepting whatever role the family assigned me. Not as the invisible daughter begging for acknowledgement. As Mom's advocate. As her voice when hers faltered. As her daughter who'd finally learned to fight as fiercely as she loved. The truth was about to surface. And this time, I wasn't going to wait patiently for someone else to notice it rising. The elder law attorney had kind eyes and 20 years of experience with family dynamics that turned ugly around aging parents. Your sister has broad authority as healthcare proxy, she explained, but that authority comes with responsibilities. She's required to make decisions in your mother's best interests, not her own convenience. I slid the printed research across her desk. Willowbrook has higher costs, worse staff ratios, and stricter visiting policies than Mom's current facility. The transfer serves Rachel's proximity needs, not Mom's care needs. And you have evidence that your mother prefers her current arrangement? I placed my phone on the desk and pressed play. Mom's voice filled the small office, clear and decisive. Vivian's been my rock through all of this. I don't know what I would have done without her. Rachel tries, but Vivian sees me. She knows what I need before I even ask. Both my girls love me, but Vivian shows up. Every single day, she shows up. The attorney listened carefully, taking notes. When the recording ended, she looked up with the expression I'd seen on nurses' faces when they finally understood the family dynamic they'd been watching play out. This was recorded as part of her medical documentation. 6 months ago, during a care planning meeting, Mom was discussing her preferences with her social worker. She knew she was being recorded for her medical file. And she specifically mentions her preference for your continued involvement in her care? Multiple times. She talks about feeling safer when I'm there, about how I understand her nonverbal communication when she can't find words. The attorney made more notes. Vivian, your sister may have legal authority, but if she's making decisions that contradict your mother's clearly expressed preferences, you have grounds for challenging those decisions. My heart rate picked up. What kind of challenge? Emergency petition for temporary guardianship, based on evidence that the current proxy is not acting in the patient's best interests. It's not guaranteed, but given this recording and your documentation of consistent care. She gestured at the files I'd brought. You have a solid case. How long would that take? Emergency hearings can be scheduled within 48 hours. But Vivian, this will be expensive. And it will destroy your relationship with your sister permanently. I thought about Rachel's Facebook post, her threats about my nursing license, her systematic erasure of my role in Mom's life. That relationship is already destroyed. She just hasn't admitted it yet. 2 hours later, I was driving toward Portland with legal papers filed and a court date set for Friday morning, exactly when Rachel expected to move Mom to Willowbrook. But first, I had a different stop to make. Willowbrook Manor looked exactly like their website photos: elegant lobby, tasteful artwork, staff in coordinated uniforms. The kind of place that charged premium prices for the illusion of luxury senior care. I'm here to tour the facility, I told the intake coordinator. My mother is transferring tomorrow. Mrs. Chen's daughter. We've heard so much about you from your sister. She mentioned you're a nurse, you'll really appreciate our evidence-based approach. The tour confirmed my research. Willowbrook was a well-run machine designed to manage large numbers of memory care patients efficiently. Clean, organized, professional. Everything Mom would lose was invisible: the nurse who knew she preferred her orange juice diluted, the aide who understood that she got agitated during shift changes, the social worker who could calm her with specific songs from her childhood. "What are your visiting hours?" I asked. 10 to 6 on weekdays, 10 to 8 on weekends. We found that structure helps residents maintain consistent sleep patterns. What if family members want to visit outside those hours? For emergencies or special circumstances? We can sometimes accommodate special requests with advance notice. Though we generally discourage irregular visits, they tend to disrupt residents' routines. I imagined calling ahead to schedule permission to comfort my own mother, requesting advance notice to sit with her during difficult nights, being treated like a visitor instead of her primary advocate. How do you handle residents who become agitated during transitions? We have excellent behavioral management protocols. Medication adjustments, structured activities, one-on-one interventions with our trained specialists. Medication adjustments. Translation: chemical restraints when patients struggled with the loss of familiar faces and routines. The medical solution to grief that could be prevented by not creating transitions in the first place. My sister mentioned Dr. Patterson recommended this facility specifically. Yes, Dr. Patterson is very familiar with our program. He's consulted on several of our residents' care plans. Of course he had. Rachel hadn't just found a neurologist who would recommend Willowbrook, she'd found one who was financially invested in referring patients there. I thanked the coordinator and drove to Bridgeview, where Mom was having one of her good days. "Vivian." She smiled when I walked into her room. "I was hoping you'd come today." "I'm here, Mom. How are you feeling?" "Confused," she said with the honesty that dementia sometimes brought. "But better when you're here. You always make things make sense." I sat beside her bed and pulled out my phone. "Mom, can I ask you some questions about your care? About what makes you feel safe and comfortable?" "Of course, honey." I hit record. "Can you tell me about the nurses here? How do they take care of you?" "They're wonderful. Especially Bridget, she knows exactly how I like my morning routine. And Marcus makes me laugh when I'm feeling scared." Her voice was clear, present. "They feel like family now. How do you feel about the idea of moving somewhere new?" Her face clouded. "Moving? Where would I move?" "Just hypothetically. If someone suggested you might get better care somewhere else?" "But this is my home now. These people know me. Why would I leave?" I kept the recording going for 20 minutes, documenting her lucidity, her preferences, her clear attachment to familiar caregivers. Evidence that she understood her situation well enough to make informed choices about her own care. When we finished, I kissed her forehead and promised I'd be back soon. Then I drove straight to Rachel's hotel. She was in the lobby when I arrived, checking out with her usual efficiency. Designer luggage, coordinated outfit, the look of someone who'd accomplished important business. "Vivian, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk." "About tomorrow." "I thought we already talked about this." "The transfer is happening. Everything's arranged. I filed a legal challenge this morning. Emergency petition for temporary guardianship." Rachel's composure cracked slightly. "You did what?" "The court hearing is tomorrow at 9 a.m. 1 hour before you plan to move Mom." "Vivian, that's insane. You can't challenge my authority as healthcare proxy just because you disagree with my decisions." I pulled out my phone and played the recording I'd just made. Mom's voice, clear and present: "But this is my home now. These people know me. Why would I leave?" Rachel's face went pale. "You can't use that. That's manipulating a woman with dementia. The court will decide whether it's manipulation or advocacy. Whether asking Mom about her preferences is exploitation or basic respect for her autonomy." "Vivian, you're destroying our family over this." The irony was staggering. "I'm destroying our family?" "Rachel, you tried to move our mother without telling me. You've been erasing me from family history for years. You threatened my nursing license for documenting Mom's care preferences. That's not, you're twisting everything. I have a lawyer now. She reviewed your Facebook posts, your pattern of excluding me from care decisions, your financial motive for moving Mom closer to Portland. Want to know what she called it?" Rachel crossed her arms, defensive. "What? Elder abuse? Using your position of authority to isolate Mom from her primary support system for your own convenience. That's ridiculous. I'm trying to get her better care." I played another recording. Dr. Rodriguez's voice: "Transitions are difficult for dementia patients. Your mother has established routines here, familiar faces, predictable environments. Starting over somewhere new typically causes regression. Her current doctor recommends against the transfer," I continued. "But you took her to a new doctor who's financially connected to Willowbrook. The court might find that interesting." Rachel's phone buzzed with a call. She glanced at it and declined. Vivian, let's be reasonable here. We can work something out. I tried reasonable. I called you and asked you to acknowledge my existence. You suggested I needed therapy. Look, maybe I handled the social media thing poorly. I can post something that includes you. This isn't about Facebook anymore. This is about mom's right to stay where she's comfortable, with caregivers who know her, near the daughter who's been showing up every day for 3 years. Another call. Rachel declined it again, but I could see the stress building in her face. Her perfect plan was unraveling, and people were starting to ask questions she couldn't answer smoothly. What do you want? She asked finally. I want mom to stay at Bridgeview. I want you to respect her clearly expressed preferences. And I want shared decision-making about her care going forward. Shared decision-making means I consult you, not that you get veto power over my decisions. I showed her the legal papers. Actually, if the court grants my petition tomorrow, it means you lose decision-making authority entirely. For the first time in 15 years, Rachel looked genuinely scared. Not of losing control over the narrative, but of losing control altogether. Of being held accountable for her choices by people who couldn't be charmed or manipulated. The hearing is at 9 a.m., I said. You're welcome to attend and explain to the judge why moving a stable dementia patient away from her established care team serves her best interests. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Rachel? You might want to take down that Facebook post about being mom's only parent. The court's going to see it as evidence of your mindset about family involvement in her care. I walked away without waiting for her response. Behind me, I heard her phone ringing again, probably Willowbrook wondering why their expected transfer was suddenly in legal limbo. Tomorrow, we'd let a judge decide whose version of love actually served mom's needs. Whose presence had been essential and whose had been performance. Some daughters were born to be heroes. Others were born to be advocates. I'd finally learned the difference. The courtroom felt smaller than I'd expected, more like a conference room than the dramatic setting I'd imagined. Judge Martinez had kind eyes and the weathered patience of someone who'd mediated thousands of family disputes that should never have needed legal intervention. Rachel sat across the aisle with her attorney, immaculate in a navy suit that screamed, responsible daughter. She'd brought a folder thick with Willowbrook brochures and Dr. Patterson's recommendation letter. The performance of due diligence, carefully curated. I sat with my attorney and 3 thin file folders, mom's voice recordings, Dr. Rodriguez's medical opinion, and 3 years of documented visits. The evidence of presence, quietly accumulated. Ms. Chen, the judge addressed Rachel first, as healthcare proxy, please explain your rationale for this facility transfer. Rachel's voice was confident, practiced. She spoke about Willowbrook's advanced memory care programs, their specialized staff, the proximity to family support systems. She painted herself as the daughter making difficult but necessary decisions for her mother's welfare. I understand my sister is concerned about the change, she said with just the right amount of compassion. But sometimes love means making hard choices, even when they're emotionally difficult as if I were some distant relative instead of the daughter who'd been present for every medical appointment, every crisis, every confused midnight phone call. My attorney stood when it was our turn. Your Honor, we have evidence that Mrs. Chen has clearly expressed preferences about her care, and that the proposed transfer contradicts those preferences. She played the first recording, Mom's conversation with the social worker, 6 months ago when her mind was clear. Mom's voice filled the courtroom. Vivian's been my rock through all of this. Vivian sees me. She knows what I need before I even ask. Vivian shows up. Every single day, she shows up. I watched Rachel's face as Mom's words echoed through the room. The careful composure flickered. This wasn't the recording she'd expected, wasn't the confused rambling of a dementia patient that could be dismissed as unreliable. Then came the recording I'd made 2 days ago. Mom's recent voice, still lucid in moments, but this is my home now. These people know me. Why would I leave? Dr. Rodriguez's professional opinion followed, the medical risks of transition, the importance of familiar environments for dementia patients, the regression that typically followed unnecessary moves. Ms. Chen, the judge addressed Rachel again, were you aware of your mother's stated preferences before arranging this transfer? My mother has dementia, Your Honor. Her preferences aren't always consistent. But these recordings suggest clear, sustained preferences expressed over several months. Did you discuss the transfer with her before making arrangements? Rachel hesitated. I discussed the possibility. She seemed agreeable. My attorney produced the Willowbrook intake forms. Your Honor, these documents show the transfer was arranged and paid for before any family consultation. Ms. Chen gave 7 days' notice to the current facility without informing her sister, who has been the primary caregiver for 3 years. Ms. Chen, the judge looked at Rachel, why wasn't your sister consulted before these arrangements were made? We discussed care options before. I thought she understood that decisions would need to be made efficiently when opportunities arose. But you didn't specifically inform her of this transfer until after it was arranged? Another hesitation. Family communication can be complicated in stressful situations. The judge reviewed the documentation in front of her, photos of my daily visits, medical records showing my involvement in care decisions, the nursing staff statements about Mom's routine and my role in it. Ms. Vivian Chen, she addressed me directly, what are your specific concerns about this transfer? I stood, feeling steadier than I'd expected. Your Honor, my mother has established relationships with caregivers who know her individual needs. She has routines that provide comfort and stability. The proposed facility is 3 hours from my home, which would eliminate my ability to provide the daily support that has been central to her care for 3 years. And you believe your presence is beneficial to your mother's welfare? I don't just believe it, Your Honor. The nursing staff has documented it. Her current doctor has confirmed it. And my mother has stated it herself, clearly and repeatedly. The judge asked to hear the recordings again. She took notes while Mom's voice filled the room a second time, speaking truth that couldn't be spun or reinterpreted. When the recordings ended, she looked up with the expression of someone who'd seen this pattern before, the sibling who showed up for photo opportunities challenging the one who showed up for daily care. Ms. Chen, she addressed Rachel, do you have evidence that Willowbrook would provide superior care to your mother's current facility? Rachel opened her folder, pulling out brochures and comparison charts. But when she spoke, the confidence had drained from her voice. The programs are more advanced. The staff-to-patient ratios are better. According to these documents, my attorney interjected, Willowbrook has higher staff turnover, more restrictive visiting policies, and costs twice as much as the current facility. What specific medical need does this transfer address? Rachel looked at her attorney, who had no good answer. Because there wasn't one. The transfer served Rachel's convenience, not Mom's needs. The judge spent 10 minutes reviewing all the evidence. Then she looked up with the kind of decisive clarity I'd seen in senior nurses making critical care decisions. I'm denying the transfer request and granting temporary guardianship to Ms. Vivian Chen, pending a full competency evaluation. The evidence clearly shows that Mrs. Chen has expressed preferences for her current care arrangement and primary caregiver. Those preferences deserve respect unless there's compelling medical evidence to override them, which I don't see here. The gavel came down with a sound that felt like justice finally breaking the surface. Rachel walked out without looking at me, her attorney promising appeals and complications. But I barely heard them. The immediate crisis was over. Mom would stay where she felt safe, with people who knew her name and her needs. That afternoon, I drove to Bridgeview and found Mom in the common room, working on a puzzle with Marcus, her favorite aide. Vivian. She looked up with the smile that still reached her eyes, even when her memory failed. You came back. I promised I would. You always keep your promises. She patted the chair beside her. Will you help me with this puzzle? I can't remember what it's supposed to be. I sat down and studied the pieces scattered across the table. Slowly, an image emerged, a garden in spring, flowers blooming in coordinated colors, everything in its proper place. It's beautiful, Mom. I like putting things back where they belong, she said, fitting 2 pieces together with satisfaction. We worked in comfortable silence, the kind of peace that had nothing to do with performance or documentation. Just a daughter helping her mother complete something beautiful, one piece at a time. That evening, I called Rachel. She didn't answer, but I left a message anyway. Rachel, the court order doesn't mean you can't see Mom. It means we need to make decisions together going forward, with her preferences at the center. She still loves you. She still wants you in her life. But she wants you here, in her home, not as the person who takes that home away. I never got a response to that message. Rachel's Facebook posts about family stopped entirely, replaced by motivational quotes about success and moving forward. The digital erasure continued, but now I understood it differently. Some people documented love to prove it existed. Others lived love and let the proof accumulate quietly, day, by moment. 3 months later, Mom had a good day and asked about the other girl who used to visit. You mean Rachel? Your other daughter? Yes. She brought nice flowers. Will she come back? I don't know, Mom. But I hope so. And I meant it. Because the best victory isn't destroying your opponent, it's creating space for everyone to choose love over performance, presence over appearances, truth over the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. Rachel had taught me something valuable about the power of narrative control. But Mom had taught me something better, that the most important story isn't the one other people see, but the one you live when no one is watching. Some daughters are born to be heroes. Others are born to show up, day after day, until showing up becomes its own form of heroism. I'd finally learned that the love that matters most is the kind that doesn't need an audience. The kind that holds hands in quiet rooms, helps with puzzles that lead nowhere, sings lullabies to minds that drift like boats on dark water. The kind that keeps promises, even when no one is keeping score. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and speaking the truth?